So, I recently did a video showing off my not too shabby personal gaming PC entitled Tassadar, an homage to my StarCraft fandom, of course, and it has served me very well over the years, especially since my last upgrade cycle. But recently I realized during a recent stream of mine that the hardware I currently have in there really doesn't hold up when I'm streaming anything more intense than old school RuneScape, of course. So today I'm going to upgrade Tassadar and bring you along for the ride.
You smell that? It smells like a bit goblin.
Before we get started, I just want to get this out of the way. Yes, I know it's a bit tone deaf to be building or upgrading a PC with the latest gen stuff, with the PC hardware market being what it is. It's trash. But my response to that is that it's my system and my video, and I can do what I want. Nah, for real though, the processor I bought here is the AMD Ryzen 5800X, and I found it was very well in stock for around MSRP everywhere I looked on Amazon, Newegg, and my local micro centers, both of which actually had 25 plus in stock. So I feel like it's fair game to show off the part when I was able to easily acquire it without hassle, though I understand that other Ryzen SKUs are practically non-existent. Either way, if you don't like it, then go like the video and tell me not to do more hardware stuff. Maybe I'll listen. Anyways, so for this build, like I mentioned before, I went with a Ryzen 5800X, and with it I got an accompanying X570 board by ASRock. And again, this is all recently spawned from me having some issues while streaming recently, when I tried to stream Destroy All Humans, which just flat out crashed after like 5 minutes of gameplay, and PC Building Simulator, everyone's favorite game, which fared better, but I had to really ease up on both the stream and game settings to get it so that OBS wouldn't be constantly panicking about, oh no, you need to drop the encoder settings because frames are dropping. So this is why I'm upgrading from a 6-core system to an 8-core system, because, you know, I like having everything running in the background while I'm playing games, and, you know, it adds up. Now, I realize that likely part of the issue is my graphics card, which is a Radeon 5700 XT. It is a great card, don't get me wrong, but since my monitor's native resolution is 4K, I try to run my games up there, which really pushes this card to its limits, which is really meant to be for higher end 1440p gaming and light at best 4K gaming. Streaming really doesn't rely on your GPU unless you're using GPU encoding, which I don't really do that, but it does still need some GPU horsepower to render the output from OBS. So if you're already at the limit with your card, the very small push from OBS will be met with a lot of anger. But that all being said, we're also in 2021 where the PC hardware market is like a barren wasteland with hyenas and cave people everywhere. So upgrading the graphics card really isn't an option. So my plan right now is to just lean more heavily on a CPU, which I can upgrade pretty easily, as I said earlier, and give my 5700 XT the best possible chance to perform well. I also realized that I didn't really need to upgrade the board, and I could have simply just bought a new CPU and swapped the 3600X for the 5800X. But honestly, I figured getting a new board wouldn't be a bad idea to make sure it supports all of the latest features on the 500 series boards. Plus, I also just simply don't like having a processor without a compatible motherboard if I can afford it. If I ever need to use that processor for anything again, for whatever reason down the road, I don't want to have to hunt down a new board for it, since it'll probably be a pain doing so on eBay or Craigslist. And a lot more can go wrong on a board than, say, like a processor or a stick of RAM. So basically, the TLDR is basically I didn't need it, but it's just a personal preference of mine. And in the grand scheme of things, it was only another 150 bucks more, so I figured why not. I've said enough now, so let's just get to the build. Since I'm retaining most of my current build and it's just a motherboard and CPU swap, this should be pretty simple and not require much cable management or really anything fancy. I did run into a hiccup here getting the middle fan off of the CPU cooler, so I could unscrew the cooler from the mounting bracket. I'm kind of a pansy, so I had trouble pushing the clips far enough to get them off the fins of the heatsink, and then after a little bit I realized I just missed the obvious and just pulled the clips off the fans first, which made it a lot easier to handle. So unfortunately my Pixel died, which is what I was using to record the build footage. So I figure now is a good time to admire the old 3600X and its glory while the phone is charging. So beautiful, and it was quite the workhorse. Alright, I'm gonna grab a bite to eat and get back to this in a little bit. Hey Lily, are you trying to help? Well, now that I'm looking at the old board, I think I actually definitely got a upper end X470 board when I bought my last round of upgrades. It probably would have been fine running this with the 5800X, and to be honest, I'm losing built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth by going to the new board, which is unfortunate, though not required, but oh well, I'm already committed at this point. Oh hey again. You just love getting in the way, don't you? So here's another snag and another annoying thing about this case that I forgot to mention in my last video about this PC. I'm actually trying to plug in the CPU power connector, and there's basically no clearance between the top of the board and the top of the case for me to fit my hand in it to plug the connector in. Yes, I could have plugged the connector in before actually putting the board in, and I also know it's partially the fault of the CPU core that I'm using, which is basically just big chungus. But there really should be more clearance at the top for this, so you can install fans or radiator, or do what I'm trying to do with the big CPU cooler and plug the freaking processor power in. Ugh. Alright, there's the completed build. Don't worry, I didn't leave the side panel on for first boot up. Yeah, I didn't really run into too many snags, and honestly, I'm just glad that it's done. I'm kind of excited because I wasn't planning on upgrading anytime soon because of the whole PC market being what it is. But yeah, let's get this thing plugged in, powered up, and see what happens. Alright, it's booting up now, and oh, look at that. Wrong display, but the splash screen is showing up, which is good. Let's head to the BIOS and tinker with it first. So I'm here in the BIOS, and all the RAM is showing up, which is great. The processor is also recognized, which is, again, great. It all looks good as far as I can tell. Drives are showing up, temperatures are reporting, all that jazz. I'm going to head over and bump the RAM profile to 3200 megahertz to get the most performance I can out of this hardware. I know I could have spent more to get higher clocked RAM, but to be honest, it's really not that big of a difference the higher you go. And it really wasn't worth it when I bought the RAM a couple years ago. And it wasn't worth buying a higher clocking set of RAM now. All right, I've saved and exited, and let's see if it boots. I probably should have left it in its default configuration for the first boot up, but I'm just gonna go for broke here. And there we go, Windows booted. My camera actually stopped recording for whatever reason right when it booted to Windows, but I have it now. All right, yeah, we booted up into Windows, got all three screens working here. You don't see this here. I'm recording this in OBS now. Yeah, so CPU tab shows up the CPU tab shows all 16 threads and 8 cores. Base speed running at 3.8 gigahertz, currently running 4.2. All the 32 gigs of RAM are showing up at 3200 megahertz, so that's fun as well. And the graphics card is, showing up as normal. So, fantastic. So that's all that I really have to show for Tassadar for now. Hopefully I've already tested streaming by this point, and you would have already seen the improved experience like recently. But I'm recording this all before I aim to stream, and I hope I had time for it by the time you're seeing the video. I could run some processor benchmarks on it to see how it performs against the 3600X and all that fun stuff, but you all know how these chips perform by now. And since my only goal was to improve streaming, that's really the only thing I see worthwhile testing, to be frank. Anything else would just seem superfluous to me and just adding extra stuff to get more time in the video for whatever reason. Moving on, I definitely want to do more of these PC build videos since I have quite a few ideas in mind that don't revolve around upgrading GPUs since those are practically just non-existent now. But as you can tell, my room really isn't the best for showing what I'm currently doing. I had to set up my camera in the middle of the walkway after all, in my room, and it was extremely annoying working around it. I'm trying to buy a house now. I actually have been for a few months by this point, but alas, this housing market is kind of trash, as you may know by now. So buying one without getting completely dicked over is kind of hard, especially as a first-time home buyer. So fun stuff. Hopefully some point soon I'll have more space to set up a dedicated set for working on PCs, since I really do have some cool ideas. But anyways, if you like this video and want me to do more of these, then be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so I know I should continue making more of them. Let me know any of your thoughts, or if I did anything horribly wrong in the comment section below, or just head on over to the BitGoblin Discord server, which you can find a link to in the video description to chat with me and the community. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next one.